Let me start by just talking briefly. Sometime last week, we heard that the Liberia, a faction of the Liberia Labour Congress had an interview to say that the Ministry of Labour was interfering with the activities of the Labour Congress in Liberia. That information, I'd like to say here that is categorically false and misleading. Before we took over, there was a leadership crisis within the Liberia Labour Congress. The matter went to the court, civil law court, and traveled up to the Supreme Court. At the final stage of the hearing, of the participation of the court in resolving the issue, the court ordered the Ministry of Labour to conduct a new election within the Liberia Labour Congress. And by that mandate, the ministry then, that was before our takeover, that was in 2022, the ministry arranged and conducted and supervised the elections. The elections were held among members of the unions in Liberia. And as of today, there are 26 union members in Liberia, union organizations in Liberia. The date for the election was set, and on the date of the election, 19 of the labor unions in the country participated, 7 abstained, even though they had earlier agreed to participate. For reason, I don't want to go to it now, but 19 of the 26 union organizations in Liberia participated and elected new court of officers. One, Greece was elected president, and Michael Blama was elected secretary general. So by that mandate of the Supreme Court, the government had to recognize the decision that was made by the majority members of the unions in Liberia. So we recognize that leadership that came from there. And so when we took over, we've been working with the leadership, the leadership that came from that election. And what we've done on our own, look, we like to see that the unions should work together, let them work as one body. So we initiated discussion among them to see how we can bring them together. That discussion is ongoing. We were still talking when we had to go to the International Labour Organization Conference in Geneva. So the leadership that is recognized by the government, they sent a delegation, and their delegation participated in the conference, unlike, contrary to what Mr. Nat had informed the public that the Liberian delegation was denied participation. That was not true. As a matter of fact, we addressed the conference and made the case for Liberia during the conference. The second thing I'd like to talk about here is the enforcement of participation of our inspectors in enforcement activities at the ministry. When we took over, we noticed that individuals or employees of the ministry, you could not have distinguished them. They were all in the street here carrying out what is normally say they are inspecting, or carrying out inspections to find out if foreigners are in possession of work permit. We thought that arrangement was loose, so as a control mechanism, we instituted uniforms for our inspectors. And the uniforms are not just, you don't just put the uniform on, the uniforms are numbered. Our Inspector General is number 1, is Deputy number 2, down the line. Reason for that is if we receive complaint from any business house or any individual that an inspector went on their premises and other mates behave, we stay in the office and determine who was that inspector. So since we instituted that, the matter, the issue has been, the complaints have been very limited, and that has been working very well. We took another step to say, look, normally we have the region, all the counties have labor issues. companies, concessions are in the different countries, and we have to have people to go there. But to go outside of Monrovia, Macerado in the Leeward County, you must have a letter from the minister. And if I'm not in the country, a minister is not in the country, the acting minister must do a letter, give you a letter. And that letter must be taken to the superintendent of the county to introduce the team before the team can carry out any exercise in the county. If you heard recently, we ordered the dismissal of 5 persons. Why did we do so? Because even the 5 persons are not inspectors. For example, I'll tell you. You have one Erin Sipo who led the team. He worked in this area called child labor. He's not an inspector. Then you have one Victor S. Wimmer. He's a planning officer. He's not an inspector. You got one Samuel S. Sambula. He's an HIV or local person within the ministry. You got Bill Nine, who is an administrative assistant to one of the assistant ministers. So what did they do? They chartered a private car from here over the weekend, got in the car, and went to Buffalo and started arresting people, arresting aliens, collected all of their passports. I have with me here all the copy of those passports. 11 passports in their possession. The Ministry of Labor is not concerned about passport. That's for immigration if you have problem with that. 2, they did not have any authorization from the acting minister to say, look, you go in the county. Plus, they chartered a private car, so there must be a motive. They didn't go there genuinely to carry out inspection on behalf of the ministry. We are collecting money for the government. When you go for enforcement, when we send you, we give you a letter, we will hold you accountable. In other words, if you went there and discovered that someone does not have a work permit, you have to give the person a bill, and the person must go and pay the money to the revenue. You don't jump in a private car over a weekend to go arrest people without any authorization. So those people are dismissed, and they will no longer be part of that ministry.
Thank you, sir.
And we want this to be a warning to all of our employees. This President Joseph Newman Boyka, one resource for the ministers, one resource from all of the agencies of government in terms of what we do. We have a responsibility to make contribution to the revenue, to the revenue generation capacity of the country. We have a target to meet. For the past 2 months, since we started this enforcement, our Monday collection has increased to 800,000 Monday, which I think is good for the government. So anybody who tries to undermine that process will be dealt with as in keeping with law. That's why we dismiss these people. And let me also talk about I've spoken about the Leeward County. I've spoken about our participation in the ILO conference, and I'd like to just say for the public, in the next week or 2, we will begin an exercise with ECOWAS members in Liberia. They are also required to pay work permit. For example, our Nigerian brother, our Ghanaian brothers in Liberia, they are ECOWAS members. They're from ECOWAS member state, so they are supposed to pay $100 for work permit for the whole year. We noticed that this area has been overlooked over the years. We're trying to do that, and the way we started it, we're citing the federal governor, all of the different governors from the different regions in Liberia. We are citing them to a meeting. Sometime next week we'll have a meeting with them just to let them know that this exercise will be going on. And those people that will go on the field will have a letter from the ministry. They will be properly uniformed, and we want them to give them full cooperation. It's good for them because a good that you doing your business, there should be no interference once you have all of your proper documents. We also like to just reiterate what we said here before, that this work permit that we are giving to aliens is intended to make your participation in our labor market genuine and legal. It's just $1,000 per annum. But if you are an employer if you allow somebody to work in your agency or corporation without a work permit, we will find the person, the person who presents himself to work without work permit will be, beside your regular $1,000 work permit fee, will fine you $1,000. And the employer who allows somebody to work in the institution without a work permit, that the law says we should fine you $2,000 US dollar. So to avoid this, we want to just make our doors are open. We have the facility. Come in and get your work permit. Even if you are a company and you have more people, for example, 25-50% working within your industry, give us a call. We will send a team, because it's a digital process. It's not just giving you a written paper. We will take the biometric and we build it. We are virtually building the statistics for our workforce in Liberia. So maybe in the next year or two, now we can say that, look, this is the kind of workforce we have in Liberia, maybe in the private sector, with companies and with other institutions. Okay, but the last thing I'd like to speak about is, in Liberia, there were concerns that were raised by the International Labor Conference, that in Liberia we have two laws for our workers. We have one law for workers in the private sector, and we have another law for workers in the public sector. That is true. That is our law. But ILO has been concerned. Oh no, why do we have two laws for workers in the same country? We said this is the law, this is the existing law that we have. Public sector's workers are covered by the Civil Service Standing Order. Private sector workers are covered by the Decent Work Act. To bring them under the same umbrella, we either have to amend our law or consolidate them in a way that they will be harmonized. But until that is done, we cannot grant a union status to, say, health worker or civil servants in public offices. That's why government has been very, very careful. The land is there. We will try to maintain it until such time when we should have taken steps to bring both workers under one umbrella. But until then, this is the law that we have. And we have to respect our law. Even the ILO is also under an obligation to respect our law. The thing that is good in London may not necessarily be good here. But even if we have to adapt it, we have to adapt it legally. That means we have to amend the law or consolidate the law. And so we ask them to help us with some experts to come and work along with us so that we can initiate a discussion. We have to be talking to the senators, the representatives, the lawmakers. We have to be part of it. So it's important to let people know. Because at some point, you have the situation where the health workers or the workers in the public offices will say, oh, we want, the people are refusing to give us union status. It's not the matter of the ministry giving you union status, but it has to be done as in keeping with law. That is the law we have here in Liberia now. That's the law we want to follow. Until that is changed, we got two laws that govern workers in Liberia: the Civil Service Standing Order and the Decent Work Act.